Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Hotter than Honolulu, the south swelters as summer finally arrives. How we try to keep our cool on the hottest day of the year.
There doesn't seem to be any aircon. So many people, it's just unbearable.
Crammed in carriages, tempers soar on Southern Rail as a sinkhole brings yet more disruption.
The Mary Rose revealed, Henry VIII's flagship like you've never seen her before.
Down in the dungeons, digging into the shady past of one of our best-loved seaside resorts. Good evening. The south has continued to swelter in the sun today, with temperatures reaching 33 degrees at Heathrow. That's 91 in Fahrenheit.
But while it looks as though summer has finally arrived, the Met Office has issued a level 3 heat health alert, warning the sunshine can also bring danger.
And one woman has been criticised for sunbathing on the M3 as drivers were stuck in a 3-hour traffic jam in the sweltering heat. Martin Dowse has our report.
This is what an official government level 3 heat alert looks like. Pretty nice. But in this country, as with any extremes of weather, when the mercury hits the late 20s, early 30s, we do tend to go into unrehearsed meltdown. Like the January sales, we know this won't be on offer for long, so we tend to binge on it. At the seafront at Boscombe in Bournemouth, they were queuing early doors to get that prime spot on the beach. Hopefully in their excitement remembering that holy heatwave trinity: apply sun cream, drink plenty of water and stay out of the sun at midday. On the M3 though, several queues back along the chain, they were already jamming up. The coast seemed a long way away, and personal temperatures were already rising.
I can think of better places to be than this. Want to be sitting on the beach with a nice drink with the baby in the sea, so a bit gutted, but it is what it is.
This lady, though, was determined to seize the day, despite the obvious dangers. Sometimes we look like the Med, we feel like the Med, but we don't always act like the Med. So when the sun comes out as seriously as this, so do the health warnings. Back in August 2003, when the temperatures tipped 86 Fahrenheit, 2,000 more deaths were recorded than normal that month. What's welcome for some can be uncomfortable and dangerous for others. These elderly visitors to a day centre at Milford in Surrey must take care.
I don't like the heat. For one thing, I can pass out.
I mean, it's been 81 this morning, and that's enough.
If a sweltering colleague at work or a fellow sardine on the beach does collapse, here's the St John's Ambulance quick guide of what to do.
Getting them down on the floor, obviously you don't want them to topple over and hurt themselves any further, and if possible remove some clothing to cool them down as quickly as you can. Raising their legs will actually help the blood flow coming back to the brain to keep them responsive and make them feel a lot better, and obviously rehydrating again and keeping them safe.
Hopefully it won't be needed, and like the penguins at Drusilla's Park and the kids at the local Lido, or is that Lido, we can enjoy it all responsibly and safely before the gathering thunderstorms jolt us back to reality. Martin Dowse, ITV News.
Well, as temperatures top 33 degrees, there is a very serious side to spending too long in the sun, as ITV News Meridian can reveal the shocking rise in the number of people in our region being diagnosed with skin cancer.
Yes, doctors say it's not just the older generations affected.
No, in fact, in the last decade, rates for 20 to 49-year-olds here in the south have increased by 31%.
With around 500 people in that age group diagnosed with malignant melanoma every year.
And as Cardi Pentelo now reports, many put this down to the boom in cheap package holidays in the 1970s and 80s.
Next year, over 2.5 million people will take at least one packaged holiday abroad.
Flying off for 2 weeks, enjoying the heat, getting a tan. But it's the boom of those package deals back in the 70s and 80s that many experts believe is causing a rise in young people with skin cancer.
Flying you to the Costa Brava, Benidorm and Mallorca.
Mark Sims had a childhood like any other. But then at the age of 15, he was diagnosed with melanoma and was warned it could come back. He trained to be a doctor to try to help others. Then last year, at the age of 27, news he was dreading. The skin cancer had returned.
I've cancer in my brain, my liver, my gallbladder and my spleen and my lung. The prognosis is still not very good.
How does that uncertainty feel?
My life is chaos, really, because I can't really plan anything because I don't know what's going to happen. I've almost died 3 times. I'm a best man in a couple of weeks' time, and I actually started writing that speech months ago, thinking perhaps I wouldn't be there, so at least they had something to read out. You know, when I have a really nice day, I get upset because I think I'm not going to have this again, or if I have a bad day, I get upset because I've wasted a day. You know, life is difficult, but you need to try and make the most of it.
And Mark certainly isn't alone. Experts I've spoken to are concerned about the rise in melanoma, that skin cancer that can spread to other parts of the body.
We certainly know that there's been a 4-fold increase in the incidence of melanoma since the 1970s, and whilst 50% of patients will be over the age of 65, we're seeing an increasing number of younger patients who are presenting. It's an inevitable consequence of increased sun exposure, so I think obviously what we've seen since the 1970s is an increase in foreign holidays, increased sun exposure, sunbeds and various means of UV radiation exposure, and we're seeing the consequences of that now.
So tanning, and more importantly burning as a child, could now be taking its toll.
One episode of burning as a child can increase your risk by about 80% of getting skin cancer or an area of sun damage.
It's shocking that, isn't it?
It is shocking, and I don't think people really pay much attention to it because the damage often isn't done until you're older.
Particularly parents watching this will be thinking, OK, what do I do then?
Yes, so the bottom line is actually quite simple, and that is children must not get sunburnt.
As a doctor, Mark knows all too well the risks and the treatment options. Now too poorly to work, he's raised tens of thousands of pounds for research.
I can see that money being useful on a patient level probably in 5 or 6 years' time. If I get to see that point, I'll be amazed, and I'll be very grateful for all the research that's been done. Sometimes people think skin cancer, you just cut it out. Melanoma buries down, spreads and kills people quickly and in horrible ways.
A clear and stark warning of how being careless in the sun could change your life forever.
Kylie Pentelow reporting there. Well, with temperatures in the 30s this week, it hasn't been ideal to spend your evening stuck on an overcrowded train in sweltering conditions.
Indeed, many commuters say Southern Rail's emergency timetable brought in a week ago has actually made things worse. ITV News Meridian can reveal that more than 75% of Southern Coastway services did not arrive at their scheduled time on Sunday.
And only 1 in 3 Southern mainline services arrived on time.
While 64% of Gatwick Express trains were not on time.
Well, to add to the misery, a massive sinkhole opened up on the line to London Bridge. Our transport correspondent Mike Pearce has more.
The hottest day of the year. The air conditioning isn't working and we're packed in a train going nowhere. These are some of the tens of thousands of passengers from Surrey, Sussex and Kent caught up in the London Bridge chaos caused by a collapsed sewer. But these commuters say it was as bad all of last week, following the 341 cuts to Southern and Gatwick services because of the guards' dispute.
Disgraceful. I mean, you wouldn't put an animal in these conditions. I've got a plane to catch, I'm trying to get to Gatwick, it's not possible to get there.
It's not what you pay your money for. It cost me nearly 30 quid to get to work today and I have to sit in these conditions.
It's a real punishment.
They took the timetable to try and help things.
No, not help at all. You know, taking the trains out, I'm not sure if it really helps. I think it was okay the first day, but it's just business as usual. It's not right.
And how would you describe tonight?
Oh, it's awful. I mean, look at yourself. You're perspiring, everyone's perspiring. It's just a horrible day.
The problem now is that when things go wrong, there are fewer trains than before, making crowding worse than ever.
Today's awful. There doesn't seem to be any aircon. They're climate controlled, so we can't open the windows, and there's so many people, it's just unbearable.
For some, it's not only the temperature that's a boiling point.
It's ridiculous. Every night I pay bloody first class ticket to come in here. It's outrageous. You're quiet. Every night.
This commuter squeezes on, but others heading to the Sussex coast are left behind on the platform. Network Rail were forced to close the lines into London Bridge because of a massive hole caused by a collapsed sewer, which is being repaired.
So directly below this hole in the track is a hole in the sewer, and our teams have worked throughout the night to try and shore that hole up. We're now on site today putting concrete in, the idea being that concrete will create a seal, and then once we've got the concrete in and it's dry, we're going to be filling in approximately 50 tonne of ballast later this afternoon into the evening.
Well, this was clearly one issue Network Rail could not have predicted, but all being well, things will open as usual tomorrow morning. Mike Pearce, ITV News, South East London.
In other news, hundreds of people attended a vigil last night for a teenager who was killed at the weekend in Bournemouth. Jack Gudge, who was 17, was found unconscious in Winton on Saturday. 3 men and a teenage boy arrested on suspicion of murder have been released on bail. Last night, balloons were released in Jack's memory near his home in West Howe.
Almost 150 jobs will be lost in the latest round of cuts at Southampton City Council. It's part of plans to save more than £8.5 million.
2 boys have been arrested on suspicion of arson after a fire at a disused chapel in Farnborough. Emergency services were called to the church in Victoria Road in the Cove area. No one was injured. Now, it's believed that more than 50 homeless people have died in Brighton and Hove in the last 3 years.
We're now in a strategy finalised today. The council has set an ambitious target to make sure no one has the need to sleep rough in the city by 2020. That's what they say. Andy Dickinson has this exclusive report.
Sarah Mitchell and Greg Headley go out onto the city streets as their teams do 6 nights a week. They soon meet Reg. He's been homeless before and he's about to become homeless again, evicted from supported flats due to recent cuts.
There's people dying because the services are shutting down, yeah? There's a hell of a lot of things going on that people don't know about, yeah?
Do you worry when you're sleeping on the streets?
Do I worry? Well, that's an obvious answer is yes. The people that pass us, they don't know about the services, yeah, that we used to have and now they're gone.
For Sarah, who helped Reg get off the streets 5 years ago, it's heartbreaking.
As a result of those cuts, he loses his accommodation and he's offered a hostel bed, which he won't go to, because he won't give up his dogs and they're his family, as he was saying. He'll return to the streets. His health will deteriorate, he'll increase his drinking, even from being served with an eviction notice. You know, when we talk about people's homes, we tend to underestimate that security. So as soon as someone says, well, you're not having your home anymore, then it's really destabilising and you go back to old behaviour.
It's thought more than 50 homeless people have died in Brighton and Hove in the last 3 years, and due to the impact of recent welfare reforms, many fear that death toll will rise. Almost 800 rough sleepers passed through the city's services last year alone. The council now preparing its biggest effort yet to save lives.
These are a very vulnerable group of people who, you know, maybe for many years have been homeless. It might be they've lost their job, they've lost their tenancy, marital breakup, they might be leaving hospital, leaving prison. It can take quite a few years sometimes to really support people to get them well again, get them back on their feet, and then they can move on into independent accommodation. So the strategy looks at that whole pathway.
Yet Reggie's needs are typically complex. Later the team meet a woman in her 20s who's been sleeping in doorways rather than go home. She has mental health issues. The average life expectancy for someone living on our streets is 47. For the general population, it's 77. For many, the council's new initiatives can't come quickly enough. For some, it could be too late. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Brighton.
Indeed, you are watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thanks for choosing us. Coming up, will the heat wave continue? Please, Simon.
Well, whether it lasts or not, there are people who are making hay while the sun shines. I mean, look at this enormous queue, all for the sweetest way to stay cool. Well, couldn't half go a 99.
We all could do with one of those. For more on our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. You can give us a call, the number's on the screen, or why not get in touch via Facebook or send us a tweet at ITV Meridian. From tomorrow, visitors to Henry VIII's prized warship, the Mary Rose, will see her like never before, as protective barriers which have protected the vessel for more than 2 decades have come down.
It's 471 years to the day since the Mary Rose sank in the Solent with 500 crew on board. Well, since opening 3 years ago, around 1 million people have visited the museum at Portsmouth's historic dockyard. Richard Jones now reports on Tudor flagship's new chapter.
Some people have always found it hard to imagine the Mary Rose as the ship she once was. For years, what remained of her hull was sprayed by water and wax. Today, that all changed. The dropping of this curtain in a few minutes' time will be the culmination of 34 years of hard work to preserve a ship which sunk in the Solent 471 years ago today. The spraying has finished, and on one viewing deck, the glass that used to divide visitor and ship has gone.
Now we've got completely clear views. There's nothing between us and the ship from this gallery. And you can see it from all 3 levels and from both ends and in the middle, so from 3 sides, 3 levels, and the views of the ship are stunning.
£39 million has been spent building the new Mary Rose Museum. It's been closed since December for the last stage in the project to display the ship and her artefacts together.
The word unique is horribly overused, but it does offer a unique experience. I, Simon Sharma, whoever, TV historians, were constantly saying, we're going to take you there, we're going to put you in it. Here you literally are. There's the unveiled ship there. There are things that are found in it here, and you are in the middle.
After years of careful preservation, the Mary Rose is probably in the most stable condition she's ever been. But there does remain one danger to her: us.
Our breathing brings moisture into the air, and that can affect the relative humidity levels, and therefore it means the ship, if we're not careful, isn't at the right conditions to last for years and years.
So the atmosphere will continue to be controlled, and the work on the ship is far from over. The next aim is to find a way of letting people see the starboard side of the Mary Rose, which remains hidden from view. Richard Jones, ITV News, Portsmouth.
Fascinating. So's this. Because what happens when you put a crime fighter and a crime writer together in a South Coast resort they describe as the crime capital of Britain? Well, you get a real-life thriller from the best-selling author Peter James and former police chief Graham Bartlett.
Fred went to find out how they collaborated on a book, Death Comes Knocking, which lays bare the recent crimes of Brighton.
We're in the old police cells beneath Brighton Town Hall, the perfect place to be talking about Death Comes Knocking. Peter, international best-selling author, why did you want to co-write a factual book?
Many of my fans have asked me for a long time if I would write a book about the real-life world of the policing in Brighton, and I thought, well, who better than Graham Bartlett, who ran the city.
It's a pressure job. Do you miss it?
I miss parts of it, most certainly. It's a fabulous city to police. There's so many challenges, so many opportunities.
There's some fascinating tales in the book. Let's talk about one or two of them. First of all, a gentleman called David Henty, an artist from Saltdean who copies the masters like Van Gogh and Picasso. But you first knew him as a forger.
Yes, back in 1990, a group of colleagues and I burst into his house, kicked the door open, went in and found a cottage industry forging passports for the Hong Kong people.
But since then, of course, he's become a reformed character.
Well, he has.
We got caught, we got sentenced, and you know, something good came out of it.
Peter and I met him in the research for this book. We had lunch with him around at his house, and he told us that he's found his new way in the world in painting, a talent that he picked up while he was in prison for the passport forgeries.
Extraordinary.
What I love was that the last time he'd seen Graham was 20 years ago when he kicked his door and arrested him. And when we meet him for lunch, he goes, "Hello, Graham, mate, great to see you."
Peter, the scary story of Dr. Alison Hewitt, victim of a stalker who masqueraded as a doctor.
It was great.
That true life story was about a bright woman who met a guy on a dating agency who turned out to be the date from hell, and when she dumped him, he stalked her obsessively and put her life in serious danger.
Graham, Glyn Murphy, left to die on Devil's Dyke, another very sad case.
That was a man who scraped a living together running a pizza shop in Hove, kidnapped off the street, taken up to the dyke, beaten half to death, and all for the sake of a few £100 taking. He now is blind for life and living in the shadow of that dreadful night.
And Michael Fitzpatrick, shot dead by police at Rock Place.
Michael Fitzpatrick was wanted for armed robberies around Sussex. He was confronted by officers in Rock Place. He pulled a gun on them and they had no choice to shoot him.
Peter, Brighton, slaughterhouse of Europe, crime capital of Britain, drugs death capital of the UK. All descriptions of Brighton and Hove in this book. Fair?
Definitely fair. It's got a dark side and a beautiful light side as well, but for me as a crime writer, Brighton is the perfect environment. If you look at any great city, part of the greatness is the fact they have an edge to them. I think it's what makes Brighton such a great place in the UK against all other seaside resorts which are dull in comparison.
Now that you've both had a look at each other's lives, Graham, would you like to become an author? Well, you are an author, I suppose, now.
In a heartbeat. I've really enjoyed writing it and I do want to go on writing more.
Peter, would you like to be a policeman?
One thing would hold me back, which is you have to be damn brave, and it's something people forget. Almost every police officer I've ever met at some point in his or her life has had their life on the line. Whether I'd be brave enough to do that, that's what I wonder.
Death comes knocking. It's a different look at the world of crime. Good luck with it.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
You love your crime. Enjoyed it?
I did.
Yeah.
I love meeting both of them.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Great. Now, for some schools, the summer holidays have just begun and many families are now thinking about heading abroad. But if you're going to be driving on holiday, you might want to do a bit of research.
Indeed, a new survey has found many drivers don't know the rules of the roads in different countries, especially when it comes to things like speed limits and what documents you need.
Well, the research actually shows that 1 in 5 won't do any preparation before they drive abroad for the first time.
Nearly half admit they don't know the speed limits for all the types of roads they're planning to drive on.
And nearly a quarter of those who've driven in a foreign country admit they've been penalised for a traffic offence.
Well, in our region, more than a quarter of people getting behind the wheel in a foreign country this summer will be doing so for the very first time. We spoke to these drivers in Reading.
I made sure that I had the little stickers on the headlights, had all the first aid stuff. You know, make sure you have the right insurance.
Sat-nav is there to take you wherever you want, so that makes life easier.
We ended up on a toll road and not really knowing what we were supposed to be doing or whether we could reverse off of it.
I've driven in Vegas, I've driven down the strip, which I probably wouldn't repeat because you don't quite realise that it's 5 or 6 lanes and quite how daunting it is.
No, that would be frightening. Well, motoring journalist Quentin Wilson has these top tips to make sure you don't end up being driven to distraction abroad.
If you're driving abroad this summer, there really is a lot of stuff you need to know about. Speed. For instance, in France, if you go over 40 kilometers an hour, they can confiscate your car. So stick to those limits. If you've got a sat-nav, you've got to disable the speed camera function. Tolls. You'll be paying the tolls on the left-hand side. So lots of change here. Make sure you've got the right documentation in your glove box. You've got to have a copy of your license, your registration document, and your insurance. You've got to have at least one high-vis vest for every person in the car, and a warning triangle, and a set of bulbs. Now, if you don't have these and the cops pull you over, it's another fine. and it's messy and it takes time and it just slows the whole holiday down. If you've got an older car, don't use French E10 petrol, which has bioethanol content. Use just the normal stuff. And remember, at night on 24-hour garages in France, you may not be able to use your British credit card. I bet you didn't know this either. In Italy, you're not allowed to drive in flip-flops. And in Switzerland, if you wear glasses, you must take 2 pairs with you. It all sounds a little bit confusing. It's not. Just do your research. Don't go unprepared, and you'll have a lovely holiday.
Good advice from Quentin Wilson there. And if you are staying put, then how long is this lovely weather going to last?
Well, one man who can tell us isn't here in the studio today. He's out enjoying it. Simon, our muscle-bound sun god.
Where are you looking?
You enjoying it?
Well, how could you not enjoy an office view like this? Look, the seaside on a gorgeous sunny day, warmest day of the year as we predicted, at 33.5 degrees at Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, which is just a shade over 92 degrees. And that's why there's a massive queue here for the most popular man in the country on a day like today. And no, Fred, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Dean, the ice cream man, who is preparing me a 99. So, Dean, day like today must be great for business.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's lovely for business, really. Yeah, but, you know, obviously, it's not always as great as this, but it's been nice today.
But surely even on rainy days people want to buy ice cream.
Oh yeah, they definitely do. Of course they do, yeah. But it's just one of them days today where it's extra nice. But if you can kindly make it as nice as this until I finish the season, that'd be totally appreciated.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of a tall order there, but I'll take my ice cream. Thank you very much, Dean, and cheers. Thank you very much. One of the people who is in the queue is Ray. Ray, you've been working today, haven't you? Tell me about your job.
Yeah, I'm a carpet cleaner, and I use a steam cleaner which heats to 300 degrees. That's Fahrenheit.
Wow, but that's pretty hot, isn't it? So on a day like today, is it unbearable?
It's unbearable.
Are you secretly yearning for this good weather to stop?
Yeah, me and my staff, Liam and Carl, we work so hard. Well done, lads.
I bet. Well, keep up the good work, and I promise you don't need to clean my carpet for me. And you're enjoying the sunshine?
Yeah.
How are you keeping cool?
Just went for a dip in the sea earlier.
Have you been in the sea?
Yeah.
Is it nice and cold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Too cold to swim in?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you go back and have another swim because the weather's going to stay great. Here's the forecast.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, if you are struggling with just how warm it's been, don't panic. There is some fresher air heading our way. It's just sitting out to the west just now, hidden behind a weather front. Now, as that weather front crosses eastwards over the next 24 hours, it is going to bring some thundery downpours with it, but it looks as though they're going to be to the north and the west of us, so we should get away with more dry weather before eventually that cooler air arrives. So for tonight, it's going to be very tricky getting some sleep again because it's going to be mild, muggy, humid, sticky. Temperatures in some places not getting below around 20 degrees. Now, there'll be some patchy cloud developing, particularly towards the south coast. So if it's a bit grey first thing tomorrow morning, don't worry, because that's going to burn away very quickly. And again, we're in for a day with plenty of sunshine. Temperatures creeping up tomorrow, 27, 28 degrees. That's 82 in Fahrenheit. We could even get 30 somewhere. But that's a bit cooler than the last few days, but still ahead of where we should be for this time of year. UV levels will once again be very high. Don't take long to burn in this strong sun. Your high tide times, well, you can see in Bournemouth 5 to 10 in the morning, 5 past 10 in the evening, and then another dry and fine day on Thursday, showers on Friday.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather. Keeping a close eye on summer. The pollen count, sponsored by Ilogy Eye Drops.
Well, at this time of year, it's first thing in the morning and this time in the evening when the pollen counts for both the grass and the weed are at their highest. They'll be high again through tomorrow, and as we head through the rest of the week, nothing will change.
And in just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Charlene White.
I shall have our late news, so try and join me if you can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. Take care of yourselves in this warm weather. See you tomorrow.
Stay cool. Bye-bye.